In the hush before dawn, beneath the languid sweep of constellations and the hush of ancient atmospheres, we stand on the shore of an unfathomable light. Picture the sun not as a sphere, but as a living paradox, a roaring, seething ocean of fire, whose waves are silence, whose depths burn with secrets older than language. From this crucible, every shadow is cast and every warmth is born. Yet, for all its splendor, the sun conceals a riddle. How does its face, so blinding and near, birth winds that tear through the void? And why does its corona, the trembling halo, blaze hotter than the very surface that feeds it? In the boundless quiet that follows each sunrise, we are left to wonder, what would it mean to touch that fire, to witness its breath, and to read the messages it hurls through space, shaping our fate with invisible hands? Let us breathe into the immensity that is our solar system, a cosmic cathedral where the sun reigns as both tyrant and nurturer. We orbit this star, tethered by gravity, our pale blue world spinning through a realm of frozen giants and rocky debris, all bound to the sun's relentless pulse. From Earth, the sun is a constant, its light the metronome of days, its warmth the promise of seasons. Yet, if we could step away from our sheltered vantage, beyond the blue cocoon of our atmosphere, we would see the sun not as a gentle disk, but as a seething, dynamic titan, a sphere of plasma, a nuclear forge 100 times wider than our planet, fusing hydrogen into helium in a ceaseless act of creation. The corona, the sun's ethereal crown, stretches impossibly far into the darkness, a shroud of plasma at millions of degrees, so tenuous it is visible only when the moon eclipses the sun. This is the realm of paradox. The corona burns hundreds of times hotter than the surface below, radiating a ghostly brilliance whose source has baffled minds for centuries. Here, magnetic fields twist and snap, unleashing storms of charged particles, solar wind, racing outward at over 1,000,000 kilometers an hour, a river of energy that shapes the space between worlds. Coronal mass ejections, born of magnetic violence, explode into the void, carrying billions of tons of solar material in the seeds of geomagnetic storms that can cripple satellites, threaten astronauts, and dance as auroras in our polar skies. Into this inferno, humanity has sent a herald, the Parker Solar Probe. This spacecraft, shielded by a carbon composite heat shield, has flung itself closer to the sun than any creation before it, just 6.1 million kilometers from the surface, where the solar wind is raw and untamed, and the corona's mysteries unfold in blinding detail. Its cameras and instruments peer into the heart of our star's tempest, capturing the luminous ballet of plasma, the shock waves of ejected matter, and the invisible wind that fills the solar system. The Parker Probe is more than a machine. It is a question cast into fire, a vessel of our longing to understand the flame that made us. Yet as we gaze upon these revelations, we are left with a deeper mystery. If we now see the sun as it truly is, what does it see in us? Are we mere witnesses, or are we too shaped by the breath of this living star? What signals do we miss as we bask in its light? And what stories does the sun whisper across the cosmic dark? In a universe where sight is often deception, the sun's true workings are hidden from naked eyes. Its wild heart cloaked in radiance, its secrets encoded in frequencies beyond human sense. Yet, with instruments crafted from ingenuity and longing, we learn to listen for the music beneath the glare. The Parker Solar Probe's eyes are not like ours. They see in wavelengths that are wavelengths that stretch from ultraviolet to the realm of X-rays, mapping turbulence and calm alike. Each image it collects is a tapestry of data, a portrait not of shape but of energy, where the corona's light is broken into spectral lines, a barcode revealing what atoms dance in the flame, what temperatures reign, and where the fields contort. Beyond the images, the probe's sensors feel the caress and pummel of solar wind, counting particles, measuring their speed, charting their origins. The solar wind, a cascade of protons and electrons, arrives at its destination with speed exceeding 1.6 million kilometers per hour, carrying the sun's breath to the edge of the heliosphere. But Parker watches more closely still. It detects the signatures of coronal mass ejections, those titanic expulsions of plasma and magnetic field. mapping their trajectory and speed with resolution never before achieved. Yet for all the data, there is poetry. The light curves, the periodic brightenings and fade-outs are songs in a cosmic language. To the trained eye, an anomaly, a sudden spike, a spectral broadening, a subtle shift can reveal the birth of a flare or the twisting of a magnetic loop. Each signal, captured in silent radio waves or in the flicker of energetic particles, is a message, a cipher for minds willing to decode it. We are learning at last to read the sun's diary, not in ink, but in radiation, not in words, but in exhalations of plasma. The sun speaks, and we have built ears and eyes that can finally listen. In this shared moment, beneath the storm and the silence, we invite you, fellow traveler, seeker of wonder, to remain with us on this journey. Every story we tell, every secret we unveil, is a thread in the tapestry we weave together. Your presence, your curiosity, sustains this exploration, like memory sustains the soul. If you find resonance in these revelations, let your connection endure. Subscribe and become a keeper of cosmic memory, a companion on the path where the sun's story becomes our own. In the beginning, there was chaos, an endless sea of hydrogen and helium swirling in the afterglow of creation. The sun's birth was neither gentle nor assured. It began as a cloud collapsing under its own weight, cold and dark, drifting among the detritus of dead stars. Gravity, that ancient sculptor, pulled matter tighter and tighter, forging a core where pressure and temperature mounted to unimaginable heights. There, in darkness deeper than any night, the first fusion ignited. Hydrogen atoms, pressed together by the brute force of gravity, merged to become helium, releasing energy that surged outward and, for the first time, pushed back against collapse. The sun was born in fire and fury, a beacon flaring in the void, its light scattering the remnants of its natal cloud, sweeping a bubble clear in the interstellar dust. Over millions of years, planets coalesced from the debris, the Earth among them, its rocks and seas bearing the fingerprints of the same processes that forged the sun. The young sun was tempestuous, unleashing flares and winds many times stronger than today's, shaping the atmospheres and destinies of its children. Its magnetic fields, tangled and fierce, snapped and reformed, creating the first coronal mass ejections, the first solar winds that would one day touch the skin of distant worlds. The corona emerged as a luminous veil, a region where atoms, stripped of most of their electrons by the sun's intense heat, danced in loops and waves guided by invisible magnetic hands. Here, temperatures soared to millions of degrees, far above the relatively cool surface below, a mystery that would haunt astronomers for generations. It was in this crucible that the forces shaping our solar system took form: the birth of the solar wind, the forging of the heliosphere, the vast bubble shielding us from the harsher radiation of the galaxy beyond. Ancient humans watched the sun's cycles, measuring its seasons, recording eclipses and sunspots in clay and stone. They felt the sun's moods, its storms and calms, etched into harvests and droughts, into tales of men and omens. Yet the true nature of the corona, the wind, and the sun's fire remained hidden, awaiting the instruments and minds that would one day pierce the glare. Centuries later, through telescopes and spectroscopes, the first hints of the corona's secrets emerged. Scientists saw spectral lines that defied explanation, evidence of atoms stripped bare by impossible heat. They glimpsed the solar wind in the flutter of comet tails, saw the scars of solar storms in auroras rippling over polar skies. But still, the source of the corona's heat, the engine of the wind, eluded understanding. It would take daring, sending machines into the inferno, braving temperatures and radiation unimagined, to begin to answer the old questions. The Parker Solar Probe, named for Eugene Parker, who first theorized the solar wind, is the latest in this lineage of seekers, an emissary sent to the forge, bearing the hopes of a species that has always looked to the sun for life and meaning. We return then to beginnings, to the ancient fires that shaped our world, to the cycles of birth and violence that define our star. In the Parker Probe's journey, we see the arc of our own quest, how from chaos order emerges, and from darkness, the possibility of understanding. Science is the art of memory, a way of reading the past written in forces and forms, in relics of light and matter. Every photon, every particle streaming from the sun is an ancient message, dispatched across time and space. Like archaeologists unearthing a city from dust, astronomers and physicists read the sun's record in the spectra of its light, in the composition of the solar wind. High-resolution images from the Parker Solar Probe reveal the corona's structure in unprecedented detail. Looping arcs of plasma, knots of magnetic energy, shock fronts where wind collides with denser streams. Each frame is a palimpsest, an overwritten page, where the present is layered atop the echoes of ancient eruptions. Spectrometers analyze the sunlight, breaking it into spectral lines that act as fingerprints for the elements and ions within. Each line shifts and broadens, betraying the speed and temperature of the gas, the violence of magnetic fields. Detectors count electrons and protons, tracking their energy and direction, reconstructing the journey from the corona's heart to the probe's shielded sensors. Even the silence is telling. In the void between signals, in the absence of expected emissions, scientists infer the presence of hidden fields, reconnection events, or the birth of new phenomena. The sun's memory is not written in ink, but in the ceaseless change of its plasma, a record we are only beginning to decipher. Data archives swell with terabytes of information, time-lapse images, spectra, magnetic field measurements. Each byte is a clue, a fragment of the story. It is in this accumulation, this slow and methodical reading, that the secrets of the corona and the wind are revealed. The past is not gone. It is written in the light that reaches us, in the particles that brush our world, in the patterns that emerge from chaos. The voices of evidence are many, and they speak across continents and decades. The Parker Solar Probe is the latest in a long chain of human ingenuity, a successor to SOHO, which first mapped the sun's wind in detail, to Stereo, whose twin eyes trace the dance of coronal mass ejections, to the Solar Dynamics Observatory, which watches the sun's surface in many wavelengths, capturing eruptions and flows in real time. Behind each mission are teams of scientists, men and women who devote lifetimes to parsing the sun's language. Eugene Parker, whose name the probe bears, envisioned the solar wind in the 1950s, defying convention and skepticism. His theories, once doubted, now find vindication in every particle counted, every wind gust mapped by the probe. Results pour in: high-resolution images of the corona's filaments, measurements of wind speeds exceeding 1.6 million kilometers per hour, evidence of magnetic switchbacks, sudden reversals in the solar wind's direction, confirming Parker's predictions. Peer-reviewed studies in journals like Nature and the Astrophysical Journal build on these findings, expanding our understanding of how the sun's activity shapes space weather and the conditions for life on Earth. These discoveries are not isolated. They ripple outward, informing the protocols of space agencies, the designs of satellites, the safety of astronauts. The sun's voice, captured by the Parker probe, is amplified by the chorus of scientific minds, each a note in the unfolding symphony of knowledge. Yet for all we see, most remains hidden. The corona is a landscape of invisible violence, structured not by matter alone, but by forces we cannot touch. Magnetic fields, tangled and invisible, threading through plasma so hot it defies solid form. Beneath the visible light there are shadows, zones where energy pools, where waves propagate unseen, where particles are accelerated to near light speed. There is a darkness inside the light, a world of phenomena that evade direct detection. The Parker Solar Probe dives into this realm, measuring not just what is seen, but what is implied. The eddies in the solar wind, the invisible boundaries where slow and fast streams collide, the microbursts of heat that may finally explain why the corona burns so fiercely. On scales both vast and minute, the sun's hidden landscapes shape what we see. The corona's loops tower over the visible surface, while at the smallest scales, quantum effects in particle interactions govern the behavior of the plasma. The probe's instruments translate these invisible realms into data. rendering the intangible tangible. Even time is a landscape here. The corona's changes occur on scales from seconds to centuries, from the flicker of a flare to the waxing and waning of the solar cycle. The landscape is not static, but a living field, ever shifting, ever renewing. In this realm, we are visitors in the land of the unseen, mapping territories shaped by forces both familiar and alien. Life, fragile and improbable, persists even in the shadow of the sun's wrath. On the surface of the sun itself, life would be annihilated in an instant. Yet in the corona's embrace, we see the persistence of order against chaos, structure against entropy. On Earth, life has thrived despite the sun's storms. Microbes endure in the upper atmosphere, bathed in ultraviolet light, repairing their DNA as quickly as it is torn. Deep in the ocean, life clings to hydrothermal vents, drawing warmth from the planet's core, indifferent to the sun's moods. Even in space, spores and tardigrades have survived the onslaught of solar radiation for months, shielded only by the thin walls of satellites. IT too persists, building shelters, devising technologies, creating protocols to protect astronauts from the sun's fury. The International Space Station orbits in a protected corridor, its systems designed to weather the surges and lulls of solar activity. On the Moon and Mars, plans are drawn for habitats shielded by regolith, for suits that repel radiation, for warning systems that track the arrival of solar storms. Perhaps in the persistence of life, we see a mirror of the corona's own paradox: heat and order, violence and resilience, coexisting in the crucible of existence. The sun's wind may strip atmospheres, but it also creates the magnetic fields that shield planets, the energy flows that drive climate, the auroras that dance at the poles. Against all odds, life endures, not by resisting the sun, but by adapting, by harnessing its energy, by reading its signals and responding in kind. Yet the sun is not the only refuge for hope. Elsewhere in the solar system, worlds sheltered beneath ice or shrouded in haze may harbor their own versions of resilience. Europa, moon of Jupiter, hides an ocean beneath kilometers of frozen crust, warmed by the tidal embrace of its giant parent. There in the dark, hydrothermal vents may provide the spark for alien biology, a parallel to Earth's own origins in the deep. Enceladus, Saturn's icy child, vents plumes of water into space, hinting at a subsurface sea rich in organic molecules. Its surface, etched with cracks and ridges, is a testament to the restless energy below, an environment where life could find a foothold. Titan, veiled in thick orange clouds, boasts lakes of methane and ethane, rivers that carve its surface, a chemistry so alien yet so suggestive of possibility. Here, life may be unlike anything we know. Its cells built from unfamiliar scaffolding, its metabolism attuned to cold and darkness. Each of these worlds is a question, a possibility. The sun's energy reaches even these distant moons, driving seasons and storms, shaping the environments where life might arise. Our search for refuge is not confined to Earth, nor is it limited by the boundaries of our biology. As Parker's solar probe reveals the sun's secrets, we are reminded that life is not a privilege of our world alone, but a potential that arises wherever energy and chemistry conspire. The solar system is a tapestry of possibility, each thread illuminated by the sun's distant fire. There is urgency now, a tension that sharpens as we gaze into the storm. The sun's revelations are not mere curiosities. They shape our future, define our boundaries, test our resilience. Let this be the moment you join us, not as a bystander, but as a participant in the story that unfolds. The Parker Solar Probe's findings echo in every circuit, every heartbeat, every decision we make to protect and understand our world. So, subscribe and become part of a movement, a gathering of minds and hearts attuned to the cosmos. Let your awareness be the signal, your curiosity the shield. In the age of solar storms, it is those who listen, who act, who endure that will shape the dawn to come. The sun's violence is not merely a spectacle, it is a warning. Our technological world bears scars, some hidden, some raw. Power grids flicker and fail under geomagnetic storms. Satellites falter as solar wind strips their circuits. Astronauts shelter behind shields as radiation surges. We build, and the sun unbuilds. Solar storms in 1989 plunged Quebec into darkness for hours. In 2003, the Halloween storms crippled satellites, disrupted GPS, and forced astronauts to seek refuge in shielded modules. Each event is a reminder our civilization is fragile, its arteries of data and power vulnerable to the whims of a star 93 million miles away. Yet the scars are not all physical. We bear psychological wounds, the fear of blackout, the anxiety of dependence. In our rush to connect, we have woven a web that is delicate, exposed. The sun's storms remind us that nature's clock is not set to human time, that our dominion is always provisional. In the patterns of collapse, there is a lesson. Our atmosphere, our magnetic field, these ancient shields, are the legacy of billions of years of adaptation. But our technologies are young, untested, exposed. We must learn to read the sun's signals, to anticipate, to defend, or risk losing not only power, but memory, connection, and trust. The sun's hand is both creator and destroyer, and in its scars we see the necessity of humility. Collapse is not a rumor. It is a process unfolding in the circuits and currents that sustain our lives. When a coronal mass ejection erupts from the sun's surface, it races outward, a wave of plasma and magnetic field compressing the solar wind ahead of it. Hours or days later, it slams into Earth's magnetosphere, compressing our planetary shield, setting electrons and ions swirling in cascades. Satellites shudder in the torrent. Their solar panels spike with current. Their circuitry flickers as charged particles punch through insulation. In orbit, astronauts feel the invisible storm, a rising count of high-energy particles, a reminder that their skin is no barrier here. On the ground, transformers groan as geomagnetically induced currents surge through power lines. The lights in cities flicker, computers stutter, clocks reset. Air traffic controllers lose contact with planes as radio signals are drowned in static. GPS drifts off course. Navigation becomes guesswork. The collapse is both sudden and slow. In moments, systems falter. In hours, the consequences ripple outward. Emergency services struggle to respond. Supply chains tangle. Trust erodes. What was seamless becomes fragile. What was secure becomes precarious. Even as the storm subsides, the scars remain. Satellites with shortened lifespans, power grids that must be rebuilt, data lost in the static. For some, the collapse is a lesson. For others, a wound that does not heal. The Parker Solar Probe's images make these processes visible, rendering the invisible violence tangible. We see the shock fronts, the waves of plasma, the magnetic fields twisting. Each frame is a warning and a promise that the beauty of the sun is inseparable from its danger, that our connection to the star is both life-giving and fraught. Beneath the spectacle, there are stakes, forces that shape not only science but the world we build. The politics of protection, the economics of infrastructure, the ethics of knowledge, all are drawn into the sun's sphere of influence. Nations invest in space weather forecasting, building networks of satellites and ground-based sensors to track the sun's moods. Budgets are debated, priorities set. Do we fund science or defense, or the maintenance of aging grids? The answers shape who is protected and who is left exposed. Corporations weigh profit against risk, designing satellites with minimal shielding to save cost, gambling that catastrophic storms are rare. Insurance markets adjust, pricing risk in terms of probability and consequence, shaping who can afford to participate in the digital age. There are conflicts, too, between openness and secrecy. Space weather data is vital, yet in times of crisis, information can be hoarded, used as leverage, weaponized. The sun's storms become a theater for geopolitics, as nations seek advantage or protection. Yet there is also cooperation. International agreements to share data, to coordinate warnings, to build redundancy. Scientists cross borders, collaborate in virtual rooms, united by the recognition that the sun's reach knows no boundaries. History teaches that invisible forces, whether magnetic or political, shape destinies. The solar wind is impartial, our responses are not. The stakes are hidden, but real, in the balance of investment and neglect, collaboration and competition, knowledge and ignorance. The Parker Solar Probe is a testament to what can be achieved when vision aligns with necessity. Its revelations are a mirror, reflecting not only the sun, but the choices we make in its light. The future is not a single path, but a fork, shaped by what we choose to see, to heed, to build. In one future, we ignore the sun's warnings. Infrastructure remains vulnerable. Investments in science and resilience wither. A great storm arrives, larger than any in memory, a solar superstorm like the Carrington event of 1859, but in an age of satellites and grids. Power fails, communication collapses, economies falter. Recovery is slow, trust is shaken, the scars deepen. In another future, we listen. Science is funded, technology is refined, and international cooperation becomes the norm. Satellites are shielded, power grids reinforced, warning systems made robust. When storms come, they are met with preparation, with flexibility, with grace. Society weathers the tempest, emerging stronger, more united, more aware of its place in the cosmos. The difference is not fate, but choice. 1,000 decisions made by individuals, institutions, governments. The Parker Solar Probe's images are not prophecies, but possibilities. They show us what is at stake, what can be gained or lost. Responsibility is shared. Each of us is the node in the network, a bearer of memory, a shaper of the future. To know is to act is to care. The sun's story is not only about plasma and fields, but about the values we embody, the legacies we create. At the edge of understanding, we stand on the threshold. The balance is delicate, the outcome uncertain. Yet in the act of looking, of listening, of choosing, we shape the dawn. As this journey draws to a close, we invite you once more, gently, sincerely, to remain with us. Let your presence be the ember that carries curiosity forward, the spark that sustains wonder. Subscribe and join this constellation of seekers. In the darkness and the light, let us continue together. The torch passed from hand to hand, from mind to mind, across generations. Let your presence remain. Subscribe and continue this journey with us as we trace the sun's story and our own into the light that is yet to come. And so we return, full circle, to the mystery with which we began. The sun, a paradox of fire and silence, sends its signals across the void, shaping every day, every breath. What will we make of these messages? Will we turn away, or will we together learn to read the sun's story, its warnings and its wonders, etched in light and darkness alike? The riddle remains unresolved, awaiting our reflection. Legacy is not only what we leave behind, but what we choose to see, to nurture, to sustain. The Parker Solar Probe is a testament to humanity's unending quest, a vessel launched into peril, a question cast into the heart of a star. In its journey, we glimpse the path of our species, from firelit caves to the edge of the sun, from ignorance to understanding, from fragility to resilience. The lessons of the sun are inscribed in our history, in our technology, in our dreams. What will endure? Not only the images, not only the data, but the impulse to wonder, to explore, to care. The sun's light is ancient, but our response is always new. Each generation inherits the challenge to read the signs, to protect what matters, to build a legacy worthy of the fire that made us. Long after the Parker Probe is dust, its revelations will echo in the memory of storms weathered, in the strength of systems built, in the stories we tell of the day we touched the sun. Let us be remembered not for what we suffered, but for what we learned, what we dared, what we preserved. The sun's story is our story, a story of survival, of striving, of light that endures. In the silence after the storm, may our legacy be as radiant, as lasting, as the star that calls us home.